Charisma is this fleeting thing, this murky word. The dictionary definition of charisma is a special magnetic charm or appeal. It's this je ne sais quoi. It's really hard to point your finger on it. It's not something that you can really easily acquire. I talked about Where Is My Mind in context of Fight Club. In a way, the parallel is perfect, right? We have the narrator, we have the Ed Norton character, and Tyler Durden. And Tyler Durden is all charisma and machismo, and the narrator doesn't have it, so he invents it and makes it for himself. And in a way, I think the Pixies are similar. The Pixies went far because of Kim Deal's charisma. Something that Charles Thompson lacked. Charles Thompson had negative charisma. Steve Albini called her the soul of the band, which I'm sure really pissed off Charles Thompson. I was a latecomer to the Pixies. I think it has to do with the fact that I grew up in Israel, where some bands didn't really cross over so much. Tool, no. Metallica, yeah. Oasis, definitely. But Weezer, And then Nirvana, yes. The Pixies, not so much. And I think all of these have maybe something to do with the charisma of their frontmen. Those bands that really translated internationally and really made it far, their front people had something, a charisma that propelled them forward. As an anecdote, when I used to play Dungeons and Dragons, you define your characters through 6 character traits: strength, constitution, dexterity, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. And charisma was always this concept that was very hard for me to grasp. You could train your strength, you could work out in the gym and become better. You can learn more and become more intelligent, read more and get more knowledge, live more and gain more wisdom. But charisma is one of these things where you're either born with it or you're not born with it. And it's not fair, man. It talks to me specifically because I don't think I have a lot of charisma, and I wish I did. So it's on my mind. It's something that I envy a lot, and so it's something that I think a lot about. When I was writing a script about a band breaking up, I was calling it negative charisma because of that unfairness to that aspect. The fact that it doesn't matter how hard you might work on your musicianship or anything like that, you'd never be a band leader, you'd never be a front person if you don't have charisma, which you can't really acquire. So going back to the Pixies, this is not a history video. You have 2 friends meeting at college, Joey Santiago and Charles Thompson, who would change his names many times afterwards. Charles is a songwriter. He's written a lot of songs. He is a very smart guy. He's got confidence in his ability. Joey will follow him along. He's not a songwriter. He will enhance what Charles is bringing to the equation. And they start making music together, but they want a real band, so they need a bass player. And Kim Deal enters. And the way that she enters is very famous. Kim Deal is the only person that responds to their ad. She's never played bass before, but she really wanted to be in a band. She's like, fine, bass, same tuning as the guitar. Boom, she joins the band. David Lovering joins shortly thereafter at her recommendation. They now have a full band, and they have something new. Once the Pixies is formed, and they have a whole band, they get a record deal, they get success, and conflicts start to arise between Kim and Charles pretty early on. Charles is the undisputed leader of the band, but Kim wants more creative control. It becomes a problem. Long story short, the band has some success, they're a good live act, they're incredibly influential. A lot of bands follow them. They make a really big mark, and then they basically explode because of the tensions between Kim and... See, I can't even remember his name all the time. He's so invisible in a way, right? I want to call him Charles, right, or Frank.
It's funny, he just disappears. So the tension between Kim and Charles, or Frank at this point, it's just untenable anymore, and the band basically explodes. I have a lot of empathy for Charles Thompson. Here's a guy, in Freudian terms, I think he is the ego of the operation. He's very self-aware, he's very smart, he's in touch with reality, and he's got a lot of control. He works really hard, but his effort shows. You can see that he's working hard at it. He's not that appealing. He's not that good looking. He wants control. It's his band, it's his leadership. He wants the credit, he wants the recognition, he wants the control, he wants the spotlight. And he can't ever quite get it the way he wants it. In an effort to maybe change himself because he's uncomfortable with who he is, he's constantly changing identities, changing names, trying on personas, using humor to shield his emotions, but revealing a lot of things about himself. I got the feeling he's not a very fun person to be around. He's very serious, and he's got some incredible ideas, but he's stuck. And then he meets Kim, and it's surprising because he wasn't looking for a creative partnership. In a way, he was looking for a bass player so he can have a real band. But Kim shows up, and in so many ways, she is the polar opposite of what Frank is. She's effortless, she's natural. Her talent just seems to come without any exertion, in a way. She exists. There's something very Buddhist about her. She just exists. She doesn't have to think about it. If Charles is an ego, Kim is an id. On the flip side of this effortlessness and all that, she's unpredictable, she's unreliable, she's emotional, she's ethereal. She can't control when her sparks of genius are going to come. And at the same time, she has way more creativity in her that Charles is going to allow for. So she feels, to me, she really feels like a bird in a gilded cage. You hear her contribution show where she can, where she's allowed to express herself in interesting bass lines, especially in the backup vocals. She tries to make things her own, but she's always has to fight for it. In the early days of the band, she is more feisty, so she's fighting more to have more control. And her footprint is felt more, or more directly at least. And again, I'm sure Charles is not thrilled that Gigantic ends up being the most successful single of their first album. It's her song. It's not him. He just can't get that spotlight that he's after. But at the same time, his band is growing. It's getting recognition. I think it's the same thing in their live shows. She's a magnet. People go and look at her and are drawn to her, and that draws people to their shows. But Charles is jealous. Envy is a killer. He can't be happy. He's not able to share the spotlight. Now, the tension between these two forces of nature are what creates a lot of the uniqueness in the sound of the Pixies. And so, a lot like, Lennon McCartney, perhaps, it's the clash of these two forces that ends up really making something that's unique and that's lasting. And as much as I love the Breeders, and I really love the Breeders, and I don't know Charles' solo work as much, but some of the things that they did with the Pixies is greater than they could do on their own because of that clash. It's exactly because of that tension that creates what's good about it. Now, if you ask me, even though Charles Thompson is the main force, is the front man, I think he gets nowhere without Kim Deal. I think the Pixies never happens. I think he is just a bleep in history. And I'm not sure, by the way, that that's true the other way around. Kim Deal was such a creative force that she would have found a way to express herself and get there one way or the other, because she was really hungry for that. From the very early stages where she was told that girls cannot be rock stars. But the tragedy of it hits me hard. That negative charisma, that insurmountable obstacle in the way of reaching greatness. It's poetic, it yields a lot of frustration, and it can often create really compelling art and music because of that frustration, because of that desire to be seen. A lot of the silent echoes that I talk about in this channel, those modern day Christian saints, the people that are most remembered are the people with the most charisma. Kurt Cobain, I mean, he's a prime example. He had so much charisma. He's just like so magnetic that of course he's going to be remembered. Of course he's going to echo through history because his charisma is part of his appeal. Just want to acknowledge the fact that all of these personal psychological interpretations, that's only like my opinion, man. You know, like I'm projecting, I'm putting myself in these shoes. I don't know these people. I like to make stories about musicians. That's what I do. And so take it for what it is, right? I did not see into these people's souls. But I'd like to hear what your thoughts are on this Steele-Thompson dynamic. Do you think I'm on the mark? Do you think I'm completely off standards? If you want to hear more from me about the Pixies, check out my analysis of Where Is My Mind video right here. If you enjoy, please help me out. Subscribe, like, comment. Let's have a conversation. I really want to have a conversation about these things. So until next time, adios. Bye-bye.